My name is Benjamin Kim. I'm from Massachusetts. This is actually my first time at a film festival and learning a lot of stuff. Film scoring wise, I've been making music in high school, doing more hip hop and those kind of just tracks. And but then I thought a more applicable way of using just my music would be putting it behind a film, and I somehow grew a passion for film music, and I watched a lot of movies, and then I started, and I've only been doing this for like about a year now, and I entered a contest over here, and now I'm here. That's my story.
Excellent. Me, I said, I just happened to be approached when my film was done. She said, would you like to, I saw that you scored your film. I said, well, I scored pretty much all my films. So she said, would you want to be on the panel? I was like, sure. So I don't know what is expected of us. Ask all the questions you want. Like I said, I guess for me, when it comes to film scoring, it also comes to, you want to actually, I would assume you want to hear something. So luckily enough, my movie just screened over there, so I ran over and scanned my film. So I hope they don't mind. Sorry about that, Christina. I'll give it back. You can have it, 'cause I got plenty of copies. So I've been in music for 27 years. I was the only instrument that I was taught on in 4th grade was the trumpet. Everything, all the other instruments, I've self-taught myself. It's just tenacity. I just want to know music. And luckily for me, thank God, it came naturally. I said, because I love music so much. So, and it comes down to music was obviously more accessible in the beginning as to doing film. Because when I started films I would have had to pay for print. So it was too expensive. There's no way I was going to be able to do that. So I still did films, but I spent more time with music. And then obviously film has become so accessible with the SLRs and any kind of, heck, you can make a movie on your iPhone if you want. I still stuck with music because music's always been my thread. So I was in bands, was in lots of marching band. I think I got out and I did the typical thing. As soon as high school hit, I can't be in band, man. I gotta be in a band, man. So I ended up being a drummer in one band, a bass player in another band, lead singer, guitarist in another band. So I popped around a lot, but I've always had an appreciation for music anyways within my home, because anytime I came home from school or came home late from something, between my house there was a breezeway, and my dad was always in there listening to jazz. So I grew up on all forms of jazz, but I grew up on all genres of music. And the greatest thing I love about doing music for film is, and again, being a filmmaker who like I said, with Message here, for instance, other than the actors and some of my crew members, I did everything in it. And I don't normally like doing that because it gets exhausting having to do absolutely everything. But when it comes down to what is my all-time favorite thing to do on the film, and it takes the longest, it's scoring. Scoring is its own beast. You've got, it's an audio-visual medium, but it's an emphasis. Each of them emphasizes each other. I said, so when it comes to music, there's a certain tempo, there's a certain beat parameters that you have to go to. I said, when for instance, with Message, I had scored the film, and about 4 months later, because usually I'll score something and I'll let it sit, I'll cue it, and I'll let it sit and try to let it ferment. And then I think after 4 months, I trashed the entire score. Because I go back and I was like, sucks. So I went back and literally rewrote, although there are a couple, I think, and I usually name my stuff. At the end of the movie, there's a piece called To Never's Clarity that, and usually everything, any title goes towards whatever the movie actually was about. That was one of the only pieces that I had written in the original score that I kept. I didn't know where it was going to go. It ended up being the end credits, is how it ended up being, but I didn't want to get rid of it because I liked it so much. But again, when it comes to writing, it's a passion thing, and you'll know if it's right. I mean, if you're doing it wrong, that's why I trashed the whole thing. Because I wrote cues that I ditched, and then I end up, because I'm a huge fan of drones. I just love drones. I love anything ominous. Let's put it that way. So I'm a Joseph Bashira, and I'm trying to think of the last person. Christopher Young is another just great, who knows how to just get underneath your skin with his music. I love it. Oh, what else? obviously there's emotions.
Yeah.
There's each genre obviously has its different form of music. Like Hans Zimmer, I like throwing stuff that you wouldn't have necessarily expected in something. Like, what the hell did he use that instrument for? But then after a while, you grow to, you appreciate it. And you're like, oh no, I can't imagine that not being in that score now. So,
you must have noticed. I don't know if you did, but because I was so I was really into hip hop. And I made all my beats were 4x4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I've realized when I was trying to score something, it was a very different mindset for just kind of like playing, like jamming out music-wise, and then like scoring something for something visual. Because music is such a, it's something that everybody can feel. So when you hear like an EDM like goes, and then you hear it kind of go, and then there's a drop. You don't have to count to see where the drop is. You can feel it. But for like film, the visual aspect is so strong that even though all the musical like models of 4x4, 1, 2, 3, 4, even if it's broken, if it matches with the visuals, I've realized that nobody notices that it's broken. So the first part, when I first started to film, I found that difficult for me to break out.
Oh yeah, because you,
time.
You have to first, when you watch your scene, especially, and it comes down to when you're breaking a scene down. Again, I've been very fortunate with all the films that I score for. The director lets me be, because usually the director will sit over, well, this is what I was expecting, this is what I kind of like, and because I'll get myself, I'll lock myself a lot of times into, I temp my scores first. This is the first movie I didn't do that for. I was, I'd use like a Marco Beltrami. I'm like, I'd listen to something go, because I know in my head what I want to hear, I already know the instrumentation, so I'll play that underneath it. But there's a point in which, if I've left it in my rough cut, I'll come back to it, and I've gotten it so engraved into my psyche now that it's really hard to rewrite something over. I know I got to parody, now it turns out I have to parody it, because I'm like, I don't want to break from it because it's perfect. And then, again, it's all about pacing, and it comes down to where's the cue in this. And there's probably the scene I'll probably show, and there's a point in which the music, there's a build, and then there's a lapse, because there's breaks that you have to allow. You know, I'll go through, matter of fact, the one scene that I'll show. When I first wrote the music, I left in a bunch of the vibes, but then watching it, the vibes were walking over dialogue, so then you start subtracting, where can I use it, where's it going to work, and it's a puzzle. Scoring is really, really a puzzle, and hitting the right, especially because you can get points where you're right on tempo.
Yeah.
But then there's points, that's a good thing with orchestration, is I can, you can drag it, hold it, and then come into it. You're not locked to it. Although I'll still go through, and the first thing, you're still going to have some kind of, I mean, you may have it like this. A lot of times I have this going, so I know all the beats I can actually deal with, so I'm not going to be off, and so it doesn't turn into a 5/7. Now you got, you know. It's fun. Again, it's more of a puzzle, but it's a marriage between what you're watching and what you're hearing, because there's a point in which, if music's done really, really well, you really don't even pay attention that it's there, because it's emphasizing what you're watching. It's not until you're done that you're already tense. You're like, you're tense, and it's like, oh, it's because the damn music's building. Because I'm another one, I don't like building. Some I do, some I don't. I don't technically like building to something. I like letting it happen naturally, and then hitting you, especially if it's anything that's kind of suspense. It's just a point in which, again, it's the cliche stuff. You're building, and then you hit them. Well, now it's too expected. I don't like being expected. I like you taking you by surprise. You're like, oh.
I think, yeah, with music, of course, this is kind of like another thing, but like music, I think timing is very important. And when I really felt that is one of our classes in college. We were given a montage of a movie called Joe Somebody, and but the montage, it was a serious vibe, but because the actor was a he was like a comedian actor. There was like one moment of comedy where he like whacks his head on the table. And so there are 15 kids in this classroom. Everybody scored the exact same 1-minute clip, and we were all seeing how they hit that comedic moment. And because it's a transient sound, and you know you're not supposed to have a sound, like you're not supposed to score that part. So there's ways to go about it. There's one.
Bang! Yeah. And you get your payoff. Come on, yeah.
And then the one that I used that transient as an instrument. So I go 1, 2, 3, bam, and then I kept going with my score. But again, there was 15 kids, and we watched the same clip over and over again, 15 times. Interesting thing is though, whenever like someone timed it well, people laughed. When the timing was off, people didn't laugh. And we're watching the same thing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, some people would laugh at some, and some people wouldn't laugh at them. I thought that was really interesting to me. But again, timing, and because nowadays all the editing and stuff is done on the computers, I don't have the right to say back then, but apparently the term locked picture is not really locked anymore. So for film scores, it's a post-production thing. Everybody acts, they go home, and then the director comes and says, "Here is my clip, can you score for me?" Right?
Admit it. You're the one who killed him. You seduced him, gained his confidence, and then when he wasn't looking, you reached into your purse, and without conscience or remorse, you pulled out a gun and shot him. And cut. Curious? Visit theindygathering.com, a film festival, and so much more.
In today's world, there is an absolute need to know how to protect yourself. But who has the time or money for lengthy training sessions with techniques you may not remember in a time of need, or which can wind up putting you in even more danger? With Escape and Survive, you will learn effective, easy-to-remember techniques for getting out of dangerous situations. No complicated moves, no expensive, time-consuming training. Just common sense self-defense. Book your seminar today at escapeandsurvive.com.
Introducing SoundForge Pro Mac, a 2-track audio editor reinvented by Mac users for Mac users, redesigned specifically for OS X. SoundForge Pro Mac features an elegantly refined interface. See everything at once, or toggle the view to see only the features you need. Record and edit high-resolution multi-channel audio with speed and precision. Process audio with a wide range of unique and powerful tools. Sony Creative Software now brings its industry-leading expertise and innovative product development philosophy to the Mac. SoundForge Pro Mac enhances your production workflow. It's the ideal complement to any digital audio workstation or non-linear editing environment. Redefining audio editing. SoundForge Pro Mac.
Well, usually the way it comes, when films come to me, I've got it, the good ones, again, I've been very blessed that I get the whole film. Because there's points in which where it does get to be a really huge, forgive me, pain in the ass, because you've scored something perfectly and they come in and they've chopped 3 seconds out of the scene. You're
And
like,
it screws
really? So
everything.
now you got to now again, and with it being, especially with me, I work with MIDI, so all my orchestra, all the orchestral stuff's MIDI. There's a point at which I can go in and manipulate it and stretch. I don't quantize anything, but you can stretch it where. And again, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. If you have a distinctive cue that you're going to hit, then it becomes more of a pain in the butt to do it. I'm trying to think of the one that I had. I had it all set, done. It was pretty elaborate, and then they changed it, and I was watching it back. I was like, man, that's a pretty drastic change. And I have to re-emphasize that cue now. I mean, it ended up working, but it ends up being work. And I'm not saying that I'm going to be a whiny. Really? Can't you just leave it the way it was? But I'm the same way. I mean, with being an editor, 4 frames is huge in watching stuff. Because, as a matter of fact, I have 2 kids. I have a 17-year-old son and a 14-year-old daughter, and they can't stand when I'm editing because there's points in which I'm looking at something completely different when I'm trying to get a cue, but all they're hearing is, "Oh my God, no way! Oh my God, no way!
Yeah.
Oh my God, no way!" And I'm not paying any attention to it. So they're like someone come and go, "Oh my God, Dad, could you please put headphones on or something?" I'm like, "I'm cueing this. Don't you hear this?" And I ignored that for the past 80 times it's been saying that, because I'm going to hear it another 80 times until I'm done getting the cue fixed. So, but again, yeah, when it comes down to cueing, it's actually a really fine example. Because again, I was a huge freak of how old I am. I loved Looney Tunes, so comedy was the sound. Everything that they used, that's where I grew up on. But a great example, and it was spectacular, if anybody saw Gravity. All the music creates the sound of that movie, and it's incredible. Stephen Price did a spectacular job.
Someone mentioned that, but it's a movie done in space where there is not supposed to be sound.
Which was great. That's the reason I like the way they did the sound design, and that they did everything via vibration, what you would have heard actually being in the suit. So you're not going to see something go, but if you watch the soundtrack and listen to the score to it, it's incredible, because even with when they had stuff flying at it, you even hear the music going. So it's adding to what you're seeing, that's the whole point of, again, utilizing sound or utilizing music as a sound source was spectacular, and he got it. I mean, the good and the bad is I love Stephen Price, but he did he scored the show Believe, and everything kept going, and he'd stop and like, everything? Please don't have to do that on every song.
When I go about making my tracks, the guy that I'm working with, he's another student in Massachusetts, and the thing about him is I always ask him what he thinks should be in it, and he's always kind of like, "Oh, I'm not a musician, you know. This is your thing. You can do whatever you want." But even though I am the musician, music is something that I feel everybody can feel. I mean, it's something like, you can say you're not a musician, but you can like feel when the music is good. So even though he says, "No, I'm not a musician," I always ask him what I always say, try to express it. He says, because I hear a lot of people that aren't musicians, they're like, "I wish I had a soundtrack for my life." When I'm walking down, or something.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody feels that. So I think as a musician, like sometimes some people want to, some students that I've heard in my school at Berkeley, they try to go really complicated and really out there, and
Sometimes minimalism is the best.
Yeah, but then the more you go out there, the less people can understand it. And for film music, I feel it's all about other people that aren't musicians understanding and feeling the music. So you mentioned Hans Zimmer, and or to me, I guess not to bad.
Hans Zimmer.
Hans Zimmer. One of my favorite tracks is the Inception, In Time.
Oh, Inception's
It's
my
4
favorite
notes.
It is, actually.
It's just 4 notes going back and forth, and it repeats for 10 minutes if you just listen to the track. But it does the job. You feel. I'll just leave it at that. You can feel it. So I think that's
the
interesting.
music adds the emotion to it. I mean, you already have emotion. I mean, there's points in which, and again, that's the trade. For instance, like in my film, there's a point where they're arguing, and I don't want to touch that. But there's a point which, when you come out of an argument, you may do it. And there's a point where it's all argument. They're screaming at each other. Well, then the cue comes in, and again, whether you're supposed to notice it or not, it came in when you weren't supposed to notice it. Put it that way. But I mean, there's I mean, actually, I'll show you that. There's a point in which too, and there's times I have written bad cues. Matter of fact, there's one score that I did last year that it got right down to, and I cracked the joke, and I probably should have never done it. I said I've scored films right up literally to a week out before it's premiered, and the stress on that sucks. It's the worst stress in the world. So there's the film that we did, or that I scored 2 years ago. Anytime I watch it, I cringe, because when the scenes come out, I'm like, ugh, because it's a horrible cue, because it got rushed. There's no feeling in it. It had to be there, because the director finally said, which is the first time a director actually stopped in and said, weren't you going to put a cue there? And I'm sitting here thinking, I was. It didn't really need it. I really have to have one there. And I was like, well, I'll pull the one that I had that I wrote for, and I'll put it in there. You like it? I said, not really. I don't think it goes with it. So we put it in anyways, and every time I watch it, I'm like, because I hated the instrumentation sucked, but I mean, it works. Everybody's like, oh, that's cool. But it was, again, it's that cliche thing. As soon as you saw it, you know, oh, I bet there's going to be music, and there was music. I was like, it didn't really technically need music, right? And I hated that. Let's see if this is going to show you. I figure what chapter that was in. All right, let's go here. And chapter, let's see. All right, I'll do this one. Next door. So again, and matter of fact, even when I enter contests, I feel real. Matter of fact, I just entered one. I can't remember what the name of the contest was, but they wanted specifically just film scoring. The problem I have with just giving them the scores, you're not seeing what it's emphasizing. So I always give them the movie. I said, because there's beautiful music. I said, I love all Michael Giacchino stuff, all Hans Zimmer stuff. When you listen to it, I love it. I love it. But watch it with the picture, and it's just an entirely different thing altogether. All right, let's see. I'll just let the scene play out, because the scene's probably about. You'll get to see it from. You get to see where the cues come in and whatnot. So again, this is a drama. So.
Are you done, or would you rather continue playing with it? Sam, are you done eating?
Yeah.
Okay, having already seen the scene, I knew where the cues.
You know, I meant to ask you earlier. Did you ever get to packing away? You know.
I tried. Couldn't do it.
Have you thought about giving Dr. Tomlin a call? You know, you can always call her if you find yourself.
Not doing what I'm told. Not putting away past possessions of a loved one's lost. Isn't that how she put it?
I'm not trying to start a fight, Sam.
I did attempt to pack some of her things today.
Well, that's good. You were never expected to pack them all away in one day.
You remember that toy answering machine that we got her for her 7th birthday?
Yeah. She loves it. Loved that thing.
Well, as I was attempting to put away some of her toys, it actually started ringing. It kind of freaked me out.
I guess so.
Anyways, after it finished ringing, it recorded a message. You know how much she loves it when it does that. So I listened to the message, and I heard Candace's voice.
What'd she just say?
I said I listened to the message and I heard Candace.
At this point, I've got drama. I don't want to give you anything just yet. I want you to make sure we're
You
focused
think
completely on them right now.
You heard Candace's voice coming from a toy phone.
It was her. It was her voice. I listened to the message twice.
Forgive me, Sam, but you realize how odd that sounds.
I know. I just miss this voice so much.
I do too, Sam. Is this the first time you've heard her voice?
I'm not going crazy, Eric, if that's what you're about to insinuate.
What I was gonna say was, remember a few weeks back at Talman's office when we talked about us? You moving on?
How could I forget? All you two kept rambling on about was how moving on doesn't mean you're going to forget her.
Well, what Talman said that night really made sense. Why you're not giving her a chance, I don't understand. She's a great therapist.
For you, I told you both that night. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. That's me. It's so soon.
French horns are coming in up there. Now the mood is going to change here.
Just a year, Sam.
You're beautiful.
Remember when Talman said that the sooner we face
the fact that our daughter's dead, the better.
Now we're on.
You know that's not what she said.
But I know that's what she meant.
Jesus. You know what your problem is? You only hear what you want to hear. Always. You only hear what you want to hear.
Now the cue shifts here.
Voices from toy phones.
Is that cue now?
What?
Right. Bring it in.
No reply?
Not his story.
You know, therapy was supposed to be helping both of us.
Yeah,
It seems,
his
however,
out
to only be
mostly.
helping me.
It's a single cello. That's his
I
instrument.
realize that most of the time you think Talman's full of shit, but I can assure you she is not.
The vibes.
We went to her because we needed help.
Therapy was your idea.
Yes, therapy was my idea. But I was just trying to be realistic about the situation. I believe we can get through this, Sam.
Cellos.
But the only way we're gonna be able to get through this, the only way we're gonna be able to do this is together.
Yeah, it's just simplistic. I'm not trying to be nutty on it. It's just to emphasize what they're going through. And I do a lot of the transition. I let the music ride. With my films, I ride into the next scene just to make sure that you've completed it.
Welcome to Movie Outline 3, your first step to a successful screenplay. Movie Outline is powerful screenplay development software for both the amateur and the professional screenwriter, which uses the simple technique of step outlining to build your story, characters, and screenplay scene by scene. With Movie Outline, you can easily plan and customize your story structure, color code acts, rearrange scenes, develop and track characters, format your screenplay, and compare your own story to successful Hollywood movies. Movie Outline is the ultimate writer's tool. Visit www.movieoutline.com to download the free demo today.
It's like that. That's a prime example of his. When you listen to the soundtrack, the cello, that's his instrument. And usually, at least when I score, and it's pretty typical with a lot of scores, is everybody usually has a theme. I mean, perfect example is always John Williams. Just listen to a Star Wars score. I mean, you know, Darth Vader's is dun 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 dun. Yoda's is what is it? Because Yoda has one. Luke and Leia have one. Han and Leia have one. It's awesome. I mean, listen to anything that, especially Williams does. He's just awesome. Man, yeah.
Yes, I have a question. Was this the film you were saying earlier that you wrote once but trashed?
Yeah, and I tried. Like I said, that whole, I had already written a piece and I watched and I was like.
I'd be curious to know what. I mean, I can't hear that one, but what about that was? Why did you trash that, and what was changed in this?
Well, the original one, because again, with this, especially with this score, because this one, it was what had happened was when I finally trashed it, the conscious thing was, I was trying to write music, because especially like with this scene, it usually goes music, and then anytime and again, it's a conscious thing for the character, is anytime she's around the answering machine, it's always a drone. It's not really music, it's just this ominous drone that goes on. And again, when she first sees it, that drone comes in a little bit late. Now I had actually I'd cued all those. And when I watched them, I was like, I really don't want this orchestrated because it's for me. If I'm not happy with it, nobody else is going to ever see it. So I said, but I didn't like the way the score was going, because each one of those, anytime she's with the phone, with this answer machine, the answer machine represents Candace, which is the daughter who's dead. So I had a Candace theme in every one of them, but because what it was the I tried. I mean, I actually had my kids. Literally, we have one of those little toy grand pianos that I liked. Yeah, I had her theme was on this piano, and I was like, and it worked, but it wasn't. It had to be ominous, but it had to be joyful, kind of. And it just wasn't working when I went through, and I was like, I hate it, so I trashed all of it, even though I love those themes. And it wasn't until, well, actually I can play the first theme is when I finally hit it, I was like, that's what I was looking for, that's what it's supposed to be. And that's why I put it in the opening of the movie, because the opening of the movie it tells the whole, it brings you up to speed on who the daughter actually is. Yeah, right there. So this is the theme that will reoccur in the movie. This is actually the daughter's theme. And then this whole part, I show her trans. She's gone from ultrasound to actually being pregnant, and now she's born. But I also I wanted a piano because I usually don't like pianos a lot in dramas, but again, it finally hit. I was like, that is what I've been waiting to write for so long. Because I wanted, even though it's a dreadful story, this is kind of a music for my kids, is what I was writing. That's actually my daughter right there. And then you'll hear the single cello here. And that's his. Nicholas is playing Eric. That's his theme. But then I get ominous here, because it's a happy story, but it isn't. It's just to lead you in that it's not really going to be, glorified and happy. We're actually going to get kind of involved in this thing. And then there's a couple other themes that are in that there's a montage scene it's just Samantha's theme. But he's always kind of, like I said, I wanted to give him the cello, and that's usually I try to pick up. As a matter of fact, the last couple of, I've been going on the past couple of movies where a solo cello has been winning me out. Every time I put in a different one, I was like, what if I tried the solo cello? And it's like, because it's just got that, it's so weavy, and it so works in a melodramatic movie every single time, and it's like, what do you mean it's not different than, you know, hey, Yo-Yo Ma, I'd like you to do something for on a thing. Now, the one thing I've always wanted to do, which I'm still waiting to do, is it's great, especially with going through, because obviously it's pure MIDI score, but to actually see the score printed up, I'm waiting for the day I can actually, because I live in Rochester Hills, Michigan, and we have a Rochester Hills orchestra. I'm wanting to actually go into these guys and say, I have this score, and I don't know if I'd have to pay you, but I would love, it's been my dream to actually hear, because I always hear my scores all the time now, because I go through, with me being an engineer too, I engineer all the music and produce it all myself, but I'm waiting for the day to actually hear my real score with an actual orchestra. I'll be crying. I'll be, oh my God, it's so beautiful. That's what I've always wanted to hear. But yeah, that to answer the question, that's the reason I trashed, because I had like that opening theme that finally came. It took all the trashing of that crap, and I said that's what I wanted, because that that was actually on the kid piano. So you had that cling 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 cling. And it's like it just doesn't. And then when I finally hit it the one day, I was like, that's it. That's the theme of the movie. And then that ended up being the trailer music. When you watch the trailer, it's that exact thing, except when it goes to the fish tank, I just music edited to the end, because there's a whole bunch of, it's the minors that are in the middle I took out to leave it to the end to bring you in minor, but it's just, I'm doing this, it's so cool. I mean, if I had my preference, I'd like to do that. I mean, I love shooting movies, I love directing them, I love working with actors, but when it comes down, the thing I'm always, and I don't rush my edits, but I feel like I'm rushing them because I want to get to that. I love writing music for stuff.
You mentioned that you had a lot of experience with jazz, and you must have learned a lot of jazz harmony and improv.
Kinda, yeah. Well, it's funny because we always, jazz musicians are always like, you know, this is great. You know, when the saxophone gets around to it, can tell him to actually play a song. He's like, and I will get that where because I do a lot more guitar too. And again, it comes down to there's two instruments I haven't learned yet that I'm self-teaching myself, and that's sax, because it's a reed instrument, it's a little bit more of a pain in the butt. But I'm trying to get it from flute, because flute is the same fingering this way. It's just, this is blowing air across, those are reeds, as opposed to, and then same thing with violin. Yeah, I mean, I was hell-bent, because I'm a huge freak of Rachmaninoff. I like weepy things for some reason. Matter of fact, the last film I utilized, because I could do it in America, thank God. The only problem is that movie can't play in Europe, because there's no copyright on Concerto in F. That's my favorite, and I actually use it for the opening of the film, because again, I used it for temp, and I got so used to it after 6 months looking at it, I was like, oh man, so I went in and checked the copyrights, like, okay, we can't do anything in Europe, but we're okay with copyrights in America, so I'm leaving it. Because I've heard people, and a lot of people don't even know that it's what it is. They're like, that sounds so beautiful, man. I'm like, it's actually Rachmaninoff, except for the end. I totally changed the end of it. But in the end of I give credit where credit's due. It says the opening title sequence is, completely inspired by Rachmaninoff's Concerto in F. So I give credit where credit's due, man. I said, you were the inspiration why I had that there. So, but it was so beautiful for that opening, because the whole opening, it's all these gothic, it's another movie that I shot, it's all these gothic wide shots of fields and these people running. It was just too beautiful not to use.
I think temp tracks helped me a lot in my state right now. So like the director just says, like, here's a song that I want behind, but for obvious copyright reasons you can't use it. So I think that temp tracks helped me a lot.
They can get you though, man.
Yeah,
you gotta be real careful.
It helps with deciding on instrumentation.
Exactly. So, because I'll hear it, and I say, well, that was from that movie. I'm going to use that one. And I did that with. Actually, there was a funny story that happened to Danny Elfman. Actually, Danny Elfman. I can't remember who brought him in. It wasn't Tim Burton. It was another director brought him in, and he said it was so tough to write the score for the film that they brought him in for, because they wanted, what you did in Batman, and then what you did here, and what you did here, that's what I want you to do. And he said, you think it's hard enough trying to write over a temp track of somebody else's stuff. He said, try writing it's already your music, and now you got to refigure it. He said it's a pain in the ass. But then you get your sound. I mean, like Danny Elfman has a distinctive sound. He's got that. He has the choir. You got that awesome choir that he always uses.
Because it's your own thing, you might think it's actually easier to change it because you know it's your, you know it, but
then they say, oh, it sounds like that other movie you did. Exactly. Well, you get that. John Williams would do that. John Williams has where, like if you watch any of the Harry Potter, there's stuff that sounds from all his other, but again, it's John Williams. I mean, come on.
Right, and I think she's telling us to wrap it up soon.
She's kicking us out.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fine.
You can wrap it up though.
All right, so
it's been a pleasure meeting you all.
Yes, thank you.
You
all
two are great. Thank you for the questions. Oh, what are you doing?